What's going on, people? It's Gunsrar from NextGenTactics, and I'm bringing you a Call of Duty Black Ops weapon demonstration mini-series. Each video will showcase a specific weapon using only iron sights, no attachments, and no kill streaks to ensure that the video demonstrates the use of the weapon only. At the end of each video, I'll provide my personal opinion on the weapon and make recommendations in terms of attachments and in some cases perks and equipment. Alright, we're going to be talking about the Galil. Now, if you watched the Enfield one that I did, number one, I'm going to try and stay away from damage counts because, seriously, and I know some of you guys, even when I talked about it before, you were all like, well, that's exactly what we talk about. You're talking about gamers and you're calling us nerds. I'm like, dude, I'm a nerd myself. Believe me. I am. I mean, look what I do for a living, for God's sakes. Look what I do every single day. But there's a point where it's just overly ridiculous and no one gives a crap. No one cares about the damage. So I'm just going to talk about the guns in general and what I personally feel about them and what I recommend that you do for them in order to improve them, in order to have more fun with these weapons. Now we're talking about the Galil here. And as I said before, if you watch the Enfield weapon demo, I compared these two together because they're kind of apples and apples, you know, oranges and oranges. It's not something totally drastic. It would be like, it's not like I'm comparing it to the FAMAS. It's a very different weapon, handles very differently. So the only similar one is the Enfield. Now the big difference between the two, number one, the Galil is slightly more powerful. If you use the Enfield, and I know some of you guys are good with it, but, you know, there's no stopping power Juggernaut, so it's hard to distinguish between the two. But if a person was standing, if they're both standing right in front of each other and then they just started firing, one with the Galil, one with the Enfield, the Galil's gonna win. And it is slightly more powerful. It's not like, you know, AK-47 powerful, but it is more powerful nonetheless, and it will help you drop. The other thing that I find actually kind of funny or odd is that the clip size, I mean, I know it's generally they try and reflect the actual real weapon, but the clip size on the Galil is 35 rounds, and then the Enfield has 30, which, you know, if anything, to balance things for video game purpose, because we're not talking about reality here, we're not talking about the real weapons or anything like that, but to balance it in the game, you would almost want more on the Enfield because it's slightly weaker. You need that extra ammo, especially if you're talking about comparing the two. But clearly the Galil, and rightfully so, is meant to be a step up. So if you like the Enfield, I highly recommend that you go with the Galil once it's unlocked because, number one, the characteristics of the weapons are very, very similar. The iron sights on the Galil are amazing. Very, very easy. You do not, as far as I'm concerned, believe me, and I use red dot all the time, but on the Galil, you really shouldn't need to use the red dot. The iron sights on it are beautiful. They don't obstruct anything. They really do sort of guide your eyes towards whatever it is that you're shooting at and will help you drop them quick. Now, the accuracy, you know, arguably, I don't even know if it's really noticeable. Again, you know, if you're looking at the stats online when you're doing create a class, it's supposedly one less than the Enfield. But I mean, in a lot of our playstyles, when we're spraying or if we're pulsing it long distance, that becomes negligible. What doesn't become, you know, negligible is the damage. And the Galil is, you know, it's pretty obvious to see that the Galil is a more powerful weapon in damage, even though it is, you know, I don't know what the damage count is. Don't really care. It's a more formidable weapon to use over the Enfield, and I highly recommend you using it. Now, as I said before, with attachments, I wouldn't really waste my time putting on red dot. I don't think it's necessary with this one. I mean, for a lot of cases, the red dot really isn't necessary unless the weapon is, you know, the iron sights are really bad or you're just not comfortable with it. If you're starting out, then, you know, red dot is actually something really good that's going to help you sort of, you know, hone your skill and your ability to lock on the targets. But as you get better at the game, you will not need to use the red dot, and then you can start utilizing attachments that are going to probably help you become a little more effective at killing the other players, such as silencer. The other thing is if you're finding you're running and gunning a lot, especially on tighter maps, it's almost better to use something like extended mag on the Galil because, you know, if you're going to be running around, you're going to want that ability to spray, and that's generally what happens when you're running around with this weapon. And when you come into close quarter engagement for any weapon, you tend to spray. I mean, that's the way it is. Coming out of here, shooting from the hip, you want to have those extra, bullets in the arsenal. But for the general purpose, for the overall like sort of, assault rifle ideal attachment, I would say is the silencer on this weapon. It'll make it very, very effective. You'll be able to be quiet. But again, if you're going to do something like that, it's almost best to use Ninja. I know there's a whole topic on what kind of perks to use and how Ghost has no equivalent. I mean, Ghost is pretty much... I think that what they're saying is the consensus of a lot of directors, and quite frankly, I haven't really given it any thought, but I'm curious to know what you guys think, but that Ghost is considered now to be an overpowered perk because there's no stopping power at Juggernaut, so there's nothing really to combat it. I mean, there's no reason why not to use it. And then everything else becomes useless. I mean, the spy planes are garbage. The SR-71's no good. So it becomes problematic for a lot of people, and there's no way to counter that Ghost. So I don't know. I don't know how you guys feel about it. I never... Actually, to be quite honest with you, I don't think I even ever use Ghost. I put on, I think, Scavenger more than anything, and I do use Ninja. I find Ninja to be very, very helpful. It is problematic using Ninja in this game because of the Claymores and the fact that the design of the Claymores made by Treyarch is impossible, near impossible to evade them. I mean, the second you hear a click, at least in Modern Warfare 2, Call of Duty 4, there was a moment, an opportunity where even if you clicked it, if you reacted fast enough, you could avoid getting killed by it. But it seems in Black Ops, the second you hear that click, you are dead. It is done. And the laser lines are near undetectable. And then they say, look for the red laser lines. It's the worst red laser lines I've ever seen. So, using Hacker Pro may not be a bad idea in this. It depends on how much moving you're going to do. It depends on how stealthy you want to actually be. If you're running around a lot, then, if you're going through a lot of tight quarters, trying to clear a lot of buildings, then yeah, Hacker is definitely something you want to consider. If you're staying on the perimeter, if you're staying outside, staying out of these sort of contained areas like what I'm in right now, then Ninja is something that you could definitely use. It all depends on your playstyle. Avoiding the tight corridors, avoiding the rooms and the buildings, will allow you to use Ninja Pro quite effectively. If you're going to be running and gunning, more so like with SMGs and stuff, because I really wouldn't recommend clearing it out. Ideally, you don't want to be doing that with weapons like the Galil and stuff, because they just have no opportunity, no chance against weapons like the AK-74, or any SMG for that matter, even like the weaker ones like the MP5. If you have a Galil against an MP5 in a close quarter, chances are, you're going to get dropped. And it's not that the MP5 is amazing, it's just the fact that it's an SMG. The fire rate is incredibly high, and you're just going to get owned. So, again, use the Galil, use it smart, use it on the outside, try and stay in the perimeter kind of like what I'm doing here. If you're going to go inside, then, be cautious, look for those Claymores. I know you can't check every corner, but you definitely want to do that, because in this game here, Claymores are problematic. Anyway, that's the Galil. I really do like the Galil, and I do recommend using it over the Enfield once it becomes available. If you like the Enfield, you'll love the Galil. Try it out, trust me, you can't go wrong. Get the latest updates and stay in touch with the NGT community with our all-new Facebook application. Check the description of the video for details.